Let's understand the most important date functions. If we wanted to get the date right now, we can use select now, for example, like so. Then we're going to execute the queue. And as you can see, we're getting the date right now. So we're getting the date plus the exact time. And saying we want to get the current underline timestamp would be the exact same. So let's execute that one. And as you can see, we're getting the exact same result. Now we can also say that we want to select the car date, for example, like this. And I'm going to use capital letters right here. I'm going to execute that one. And as you can see, now we're only getting the date without the time. We can also select the current time or core time, going to execute that one, and we're getting 18:57:46. So we're getting the exact time right now without the date though. We can also get the date diff of 2 times. So let's use date diff. Now we have to define 2 dates essentially right here instead of those quotation marks. Let's say the first date is 2K25. Let's say it's January and it's the first day. The second timestamp will also be in 2025. It will be, let's say, February though, and it will be the first day. Let's run this code. And as you can see, we're getting a difference of minus 31 days. If you would say that this one here, for example, is the 4th of February, and we're going to execute the code, we're now getting a difference of 3 days. So this always calculates the difference between those 2 dates. You can also use date, underline, add, for example, and right here you can define a date. Let's say, for example, we're going to deselect 2K25, January, and the first day. And let's say to this date right here, we want to add an interval of 10 days, for example. So 10 days essentially. Going to execute the code. And as you can see now, we have 2K25, 01, 11. So we added 10 days right here. We can also say that we want to add 1 month, for example. So let's execute that one. As you can see now we have 2K25, 02, 01. Now we could also say, let's add 1 year. Going to execute that one. And now we have 2K26. Obviously, you could also use, instead of date add, you can also use date sub for subtract, and this will subtract the value that you've defined right here as an interval. So we're going to execute that one, and now we're getting 2K24. Now we could also define a certain date. So let's say we're just going to use this date right here because this is pretty easy. And now we just want to get the day, for example. Let's execute that one. We're getting 1. Let's say this is 2 and this is 2. So we see a little difference. Going to execute that one again and we get 2. Let's say we want to get the month, for example. Going to execute that one. We're having 2 again. And for the year, we're getting 2K25. So by using this syntax, you can extract year, day, and month. Obviously, the same works if you have a regular time, for example, right here, like 18, 50, and 55 seconds. You can also extract the hour. You can extract the minutes. And you can extract the seconds by using second. And I think all of those names are pretty much self-explanatory. So second for seconds, minute for minutes, and hour for hours. Now again, let's get back to 2K25, for example. First, so 01, so January, and the first day, for example. So what day is it? And to extract the day of this date right here, of this defined date, we can use day name, for example. And now we're going to run this function. And as you can see, we're getting Wednesday. So this has been a Wednesday. We can also get the month name, which is probably a little bit useless, but as you can see, we're getting January right here. If you wanted to format the date, you can use date, underline, format, opening and closing brackets. Right here, you can now define the date that you want to format. For example, 2K25, 01, 01. And after a comma, you can now define the formatting that you want to apply to this date. You're going to apply the format instead of a string as well. And now you can say, for example, we want to have the year first, like this. Now you want to have a dot. Next up, we want to have the month second, for example, and dot. And last, we want to have the day, for example. So let's run the code. And we are getting this date right here. So now instead of a dot, we could also say, let's get a minus, for example, between those items right here. And as you can see, now we get an item. But we could also just use some random characters like so. And now we would have those random characters between our date, which would obviously not really make sense, but you see you can do pretty much whatever you want. Instead of this syntax, you could also use, so instead of month and day, you can also say, let's get the year, for example, minus, let's now get the month, for example, minus, and now let's also get the week, for example. So let's execute that code right here. And as you can see, now we're getting January, Wednesday. So we're getting the name in this case.